Greetings and salutations. It is a very early Saturday morning, June the 6th, 2020. This is D-Day plus 76 years, the 76th anniversary of the D-Day invasion at Normandy, France, during World War II, the beginning of the liberation of Europe. So, this is a good enough day as any to start something new. We're going to call this EzeeLinux News. This is going to be a series of videos I'm going to post when things happen in the community that I want to comment on, and it could be the EzeeLinux community or the broader Linux community in general. We got a lot to talk about today. Big Linux news this week. First of all, I want to say goodbye to Freedom Penguin. It's a little sad. I got a note yesterday morning from a fellow who said that he had clicked on Freedom Penguin, the link which was in the description to one of my videos, and he'd gotten a message that the website had been down since late May. So obviously Matt Hartley has decided to let that go. I know that he really wasn't putting anything into it for quite some time, and it was in archive mode to begin with. For those of you who don't know, Freedom Penguin was a community that was started by Matt Hartley in 2016, and I was very, very fortunate to be a part of that from the very beginning. I contributed articles to Freedom Penguin for quite some time, and so did a lot of other people. So there were articles to read, there were videos to watch, and the idea behind the community was that it was for people who used Linux every day on their desktops at home, the casual Linux user, not somebody who was a developer or a corporate user or a scientific user. So much of what is produced about Linux is aimed at the quote-unquote makers, developers out there. And very little attention is paid to the casual hobbyist or the person who's just using Linux because they don't want to deal with Windows or Chromebook, or they just happen to like using it. So it was a wonderful platform, and it had the attention of a lot of people in the community for quite some time. I think the main reason that Freedom Penguin went away was not that there was anything wrong with it, it's just that people have changed how they use social media. It is difficult to get people to read anything. I used to post many long articles in various places, either on my own forum, my own webpage, or on Facebook, and people don't read them. They just don't follow through with it. There's very little interest. And of course, Freedom Penguin was mainly article-based. People tend to want their content in little bite-sized pieces these days. And they want it in a video form. And they don't really want to take a lot of time with it. And I'm going to comment more on that in another segment later on in this video. But I think all of that kind of conspired together to make Freedom Penguin a thing of the past. It really was built on a former paradigm, and we didn't know it was going to shift when we started out, but I still think it was wonderful. Somebody had jumped up when I mentioned this on Facebook yesterday and said that maybe the community should take some action to bring Freedom Penguin back. No, it is Matt Hartley's webpage, and if Matt Hartley wants to go in a different direction, that's fine. If he doesn't want to maintain it, I completely understand. It's fine with me. And the articles that were on Freedom Penguin, many of them pertain to things going on during the time that they were posted. They were designed to be topical. So how much value they would have in 2020, I'm not really sure. So once again, thank you to Matt Hartley, and thank you for the opportunity. It helped me to establish myself in the Linux community, and Freedom Penguin will be missed. Moving on to the next story I'd like to talk about is news from the Linux Mint folks. Seems there is a tiny little dust-up going on involving snap packages. We are looking at the monthly news blog post that came out on June the 1st, and in the upcoming release of Linux Mint, which will be version 20 based on Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, they are not going to have automatic support for snaps. What Ubuntu is doing these days with certain packages is that when you install them from the command line using apt or if you go to the software application and click on that, you are not going to get an apt package. It's going to defer to a snap install. And this started with the Chromium browser, which is the open source version of Google Chrome. A lot of people use that browser, and if you install it in Ubuntu, you're going to get the snap version. The Linux Mint team is upset about this because they feel like that it pulls a switcheroo on the user. If you're going to install an apt package, you should get an apt package. So in Linux Mint 20, you will install an apt package of Chromium if they're going to maintain that themselves, or maybe they will switch over to the Flatpak version, which is the alternative package manager format that Linux Mint does support. If you do want to use snaps on Linux Mint 20, you can. All you have to do is install snapd, and that will set up for you, but it will not happen automatically. So some people are misinterpreting this and saying that Linux Mint is just going all out against snaps. No, that will be a user decision. They're just not going to support it in that way. And I've also heard from a couple of people, John Spoonamore, one of the more vocal members of the EzeeLinux community, has gone to using Linux Mint Debian Edition. And there are those that say that Linux Mint should concentrate on basing their environment on Debian and just stop using Ubuntu. Well, that's up to Linux Mint, and we'll see what they're going to do. My personal take on this is that I can see it from both ways. Linux Mint doesn't like the idea of installing snaps when you think you're going to get an apt package. That's understandable. But I can also see it from the point of view of the Ubuntu maintainers, because with a package like Chrome that's going to be used on all supported versions of Ubuntu, and at certain times they have as many as 4 different versions of Ubuntu that are being supported. That means that package has to be compiled for those 4 different versions, and all of the dependencies for the 4 different versions have to be resolved. That's a lot of work. If they ship it in a snap package, which includes all of the dependencies within the package, it'll run on any platform, and it makes it very easy for them. However, one of the complaints about snaps is that they load slower, and when you're dealing with browsers, large applications, that makes a difference. So that is the number one complaint. Snap packages, when you install them, are stored in a compressed format, and so when you go to launch a snap application, the system has to decompress that, just like reading a zip file. So I can see it from both points of view, and we'll see how this shakes out over time. We're going to take a really good look at Linux Mint 20 when that comes along. I got big plans for that, and see what they do. I am myself using Ubuntu these days on all of my stuff. I don't use Linux Mint on a day-to-day basis, but a whole lot of people who watch this channel do. So we will definitely be paying attention to what happens in the Linux Mint development cycle. We had some wonderful news this week from Lenovo, which is the manufacturing side of the IBM company. Lenovo machines are very highly respected in the Linux community, and there are those that love to run Linux on ThinkPads. Well, guess what? Now that is 100% native. Lenovo is going to be shipping Ubuntu Linux on 2019 ThinkPad P series models, and that also includes the Think workstations, which are the desktop models. This is Lenovo's professional line, and this is very analogous to what Dell has been doing for quite some time. They have shipped their Precision series with Linux pre-installed, Ubuntu Linux. Of course, System 76 here in the United States ships with either their in-house Pop! OS or Ubuntu upon your request. And what Lenovo is going to do is ship with either Ubuntu, the LTS version, or they are going to ship with the latest Red Hat Enterprise Linux, depending on what your needs may be. Of course, Red Hat Linux is a licensed product that is now owned by IBM. That was its own company, but IBM bought them a while back, and I've been kind of waiting to see exactly how they would integrate this in with their manufacturing side, and they've done pretty much what I thought they were going to do. What I didn't expect was that Ubuntu would be available and so well supported. It's going to come shipped with all of the drivers installed and all of the tweaks in the firmware necessary, so it's going to be an out-of-the-box experience. You simply create an account and start using it just like you would after you installed Ubuntu. This is a big deal. This is another very large manufacturer that's doing this, and it takes Linux more and more out of being a niche operating system for geeks and server room people and makes it more of a mainstream product that many people can have access to. In the Linux community, one of the biggest impediments to getting people started with it is the fact that they have had to install it. Most people that buy computers, interact with computers, don't install their own operating system. They go down to the store, they buy a computer, it has Windows on it, or Chrome OS these days, and they turn it on and they follow the bouncing ball. They create an account and they start using it. With Linux, you have this extra step of, oh, if you want to use this, you're going to have to back up all your data, and then you're going to have to install it on your machine. And oh, by the way, we can't be 100% sure it's going to work with your hardware. Works with most, but you might win the lottery and get a bad machine. So for people who are not tech people, for people who do not enjoy installing operating systems and don't really understand what's going on in the computer, this is a huge hurdle. I mean, this is one of the reasons that I started EzeeLinux years ago, was to try and make it easier for people to at least get started with Linux. My idea is that if you gave somebody a Linux computer with a stable install already there, that's half the battle. They don't have to set it up. They just go in and do all of the desktop things that people do. Add your data, put in your contacts, that sort of thing. So it certainly is a sign of the times that Linux is becoming more and more and more a mainstream operating system. And I think it's just wonderful that IBM has made this investment. Not just sending it out with Ubuntu, but creating the support structure around it. That's a big deal. So thank you, IBM. I'm looking forward to hearing people's experiences with these new computers. I personally run Linux on junk. I think that's part of the fun, is to get an old machine and bring it back to life and put it to work and have a whole network of computers in your house that cost you like nothing. That's my take on Linux, but not everybody's, and I can respect that. So I want to talk a little bit about the channel here and things going on. First of all, we're getting very close to 100,000 subscribers. I want to thank everybody who has subscribed recently. We are now at just about 98,600, so what, 1,400 away? I am thinking that if the subscription rate goes the way it has, which has been right around 1,500 a month, that we're probably going to be right around 100,000 this time in July. So just about a month away. That's amazing to me. I want to thank everybody who had nice things to say about the last video that I posted. And thank you for all the views and the comments. The comments over the last, I'd say, since the beginning of the year, actually, the comments here have been just absolutely wonderful. There's very little negativity. I'm not seeing much in the way of trolling. You don't see those comments anyway, because as soon as they come in, they get deleted. I don't let that happen. I try and ride herd on that and moderate things. There are a few bad apples out there, but most of all, it's been very positive. The only thing about the comments that I don't like these days is that it seems to be more that people want to make a statement and they say what they have to say, and that's it. And there's not a whole lot of conversation going on. It's been like that for quite some time. And that's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Freedom Penguin just being built on a shifting paradigm. It's that people do not interact with social media the way they used to. Now, when we get to 100,000, I'm going to post a video where I talk pretty much about my YouTube experience, and I'm going to talk about YouTube people that I like to watch and people who have influenced me and been nice to me. But I also want to talk about some of the drawbacks I see with YouTube. And one of the big drawbacks that I have struggled with with YouTube is the comments section. For a while there, it was really a cesspool. There was a lot of really bad stuff going on. That has changed, fortunately. But they could do things to make the comments more friendly than they do right now in YouTube. And I guess we'll get more into that when we do that video. It's going to be about a month away. We're going to do that celebration. So it's going to be a bit of a scathing expose about the way YouTube really is, and a thank you fest, because I have a lot of people who have helped me over the years. It is 12 years that I have had this channel. So this is not an overnight success. This is 100,000 the hard way we're working our way up to here. So I want to say thank you for that. What I find interesting, though, I will say this and then we'll move on, is that having almost 100,000 subscribers doesn't automatically equate to having 100,000 views on things. And there are certain videos that appeal to a smaller part of the audience that don't necessarily get the attention that I think they should, especially the videos about audio. There's a very small but vocal group of you out there that request those videos and really like them, and then there's a bigger group out there that don't pay them any attention at all. So it's the same thing with Q&As. A lot of people ask, are you going to do a Q&A video? You haven't done one of those in a long time. Folks, people don't watch them. I do them. They require a bunch of effort, and I sit there and run my mouth, and people don't really pay a whole lot of attention to them. I'm not going to say that I'm never going to do a Q&A again, but the last time that I did a poll about Q&As, they weren't particularly interested. Another thing that has happened with YouTube is the fact that they now have chapters in the videos, which is wonderful for people like me who post long-form content. Now I can put timestamps in the description to the video, and it will divide that up into logical chapters. People have been asking for that for years. I'm not a big fan of timestamps because timestamps kind of ruin the flow of a video. If I am teaching you something and I start out with basics and then work my way up to more complex concepts, if you click on that timestamp, you might get completely lost. But I can also understand that with long videos, which I have been doing a lot of lately, that it's nice to have it broke up. So that is a feature I'm going to be using from now on when I can. I'm going to use it in this video today. And I think it's actually pretty cool the way they've done that. So the last video that I posted here, where we did the 120 minutes about my favorite terminal tools, that will be not 120 minutes. What was it? An hour and 20 minutes. There's a big difference. 120 minutes is 2 hours, Joe. 1 hour and 20 minutes is different. Get it straight, because there's some pedantic people out there, man. They'll jump in the comments and correct you. That's another thing about the comments, is that who wants to talk when everything you say is wrong? Because that's kind of the way the culture has gone with comments. Anywhere, not just on YouTube, but people are so quick to jump up and correct others, even if they don't know what they're talking about, that I think that discourages people from participating, and that's a bad thing. But like I said, we'll talk more about that in future videos. So yes, I will be using that chapter feature when possible. And I guess that's all we got to say about what's going on with the channel right now. We're just rolling along. One more thing I wanted to talk about before I wrap the video up is my other life, and that is the fact that I do a daily radio show and have been since November at B99.9 WZBB. This is a radio station that I worked at in the mid-90s, and a friend of mine has bought this radio station, and I am now part of the staff. And as time is rolling on, I am becoming more and more involved with the radio station. And some of you guys out there have commented. You've gone off and listened to it and sent me some really nice feedback, so I appreciate it. Of course, being the evening DJ on B99.9 has nothing to do with Linux, and the two worlds are completely separate. I don't talk about Linux there, and very seldom do I talk about radio here. But I figured I would put that here at the end for those of you who didn't realize this was going on. And I'll put a link to the B999 webpage. You can click on the Listen Live button up there, and you can hear it pretty much anywhere in the world. You may get a notice about your ad blocker when you click on the live stream if you're running one, but there's no ads being served right now. I've checked that out, and we don't quite know why it's doing that, but it has to do with the service that we're using to stream, and just to be aware of that. And this also doesn't work in some parts of the world. I know in some European countries, people have tried to click on this, and for whatever reason, their ISP has blocked it. I have no clue why that would be happening. But it does work in most parts of the world. We were actually going through the numbers the other day on the phone, me and my boss, and he was telling me about all the people that are listening to the radio station all over the country. And even some folks in Australia are listening. And I know that some of you guys are here, so thank you very much. It's a lot of fun. And I think quite honestly, this is going to be my future, is that I'm going to be gradually getting more and more involved with radio. And I will keep doing this because this has never been a job. It might not be as often that I post videos here, but I don't intend to make it go away. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Lots of fun going on. It's if you like American country music, that's what we play. We kind of play a combination of older and newer country, and I try and make it a fun experience in the evening. And I have been providing an alternative this week to the kind of scary news going on. It was a decision that I made, is not to comment politically or on the air. It's really not my place. I'm an entertainer, and that is my job. People are tuning in to me to hear something other than what's going on in the country, for sure. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you for watching. I certainly do appreciate it. Thank you once again to Matt Hartley and everybody who participated in the wonderful thing that was Freedom Penguin. It was a privilege to be a part of that, for sure.